Hi everyone, this is Preston Pham, and I'm here to discuss with you and present about my paper, The Effect of ERP on Productivity. So here's the outline for my research. The first will be the motivations, the aspects behind, why am I driven to do a presentation, to do a paper in regards to enterprise resource planning, and then what is the contributions of this paper. I'll give you a little bit background about ERP, and then that will lead you to the research questions. Then we will reconcile some literature review, then propose a hypothesis. I then will present you the data, the methodology, and the empirical results. Lastly will be the conclusion and discussions. Okay, so enterprise resource planning softwares has integrate changes for businesses and management processes within beyond the scope of firm's boundary. And there has been extensive debate by researchers in the past 2 decades in regards to ERP. So the implementation of ERP system requires substantially amount of investment in time, money, and internal resources. However, ERP are fraught with technical failure and business risk from the past. So it poses the questions that does technology enhancement to companies and excessive use of technology lead to better productivity or instead decreases it? And our main debate today will be the concentration is on enterprise resource planning. So the contribution of my paper is that from the past there has been numerous of cases such as the Hershey chocolates, when they implemented the ERP system and it failed, and then some of the big companies on the Fortune 500 companies has failure when they're implementing ERP systems. And the goal is that we want to have a better understanding the economics of ERP implementations, and we want to see the outcomes of it from short term to long term. And today the study on productivity will be focused on productivity and business performance using our unique data sets on firms that implement and the ones that do not implement ERP, and we would juxtapose and compare them across multiple times. So, to give you a background about enterprise resource planning softwares, is that it encompasses a wide range of, softwares products. We're talking about, different, softwares to help day-to-day business operations and decision making. So ERP, has a role to help managers and executive levels to see across supply chains, inventory control, manufacturing scheduling, productions to sales, customer relationships, financial and cost accounting, then to the very aspects of human resources and different management processes. So the ERP market industry is estimated back then in 2001 to be 17.2 billion of dollars. 2007 is 24.3 billions, and then 2013 is 54.1 billion of dollars according to the PricewaterhouseCoopers 2014 ERP World Report. So this leads us to the research question: is that do business that adopt ERP system experience the benefits of ERP implementation that exceeds the cost and risk? To reconcile back is that to look back literature review, to see some explorations of ERP success and failure factors. So research from the past focused on human, technological, and strategic factors such as user involvement, leadership and management support, business process, and reengineering and IT governance. So here I've made a chart, to see, where a single pane of glass, right across different articles and different literature from the past, and we will see that what are the main highlights on. Due to the time constraints, this was presented from previous presentations, so we will, just see a cross overview of this. So for my hypothesis on this research is that there will be a drop in performance during the time of ERP implementations for the first year in performance ratio and productivity regressions. And then my second hypothesis is that there's going to be a continued drop in performance shortly after implementation, because when you do the data, when you put in all the data and all that, it takes a long time, for the workers to get used to. There's our trainings. Some of the data are not clean. There are, and then manager support is not there. So after this, my hypothesis would be that after implementation, there'll be a short gap before the company can pick up the pace. So here the data is pulled from premier sites such as Computer Stats and a Computer Intelligence Info Corp CII database. So for Computer Stats, they give ERP systems such as from Oracle. IBM used to be hot back in 2005. There's also SAP, which is one of the big ones. So Salesforce might not have been incorporated back then. And then the 5 areas of ERP softwares is generalized in computer stat. From manufacturing, finance, human resource, project management, and information systems, all group as ERP. And for Computer Intelligence Info Corp, it reports firms that invested in softwares and applications. Does not specify ERP, but just talking about in general is their investment in softwares and applications. So to rechecked the data to see if it's accurate as forecasted. So I would use a CEDA report from Panorama Consulting Groups and also PricewaterhouseCoopers to just to cross-reference if the projections of mine is correct with whatever the projections for the future. So from the raw data of computer stats, there is 4,069 observations. So the firm type and the name are to remain anonymous for security purposes for those companies and also and legal issues. And for performance metrics and productivity data on firms that invested on software and application, also the firms that are non-ERP adopters from Computer Intelligence Info Corp, there's 5,637 observations. So the model, so there will be 3 model specifications for analysis of performance impact of ERP adoptions is performance ratios, productivity and production functions, and adoption variables. The model are to estimate the regression of various measures on financial performance. The general form of the estimated equation I propose here below, as you can see, is log performance ratio numerator as the independent variable, and then the rest will be the dependent. And then for the log VA is that's the independent variable, and then the rest will be the dependent. And then here I will continue to provide the definitions to see if we can recheck to see which one is not within there's something wrong with it. And as you can see, if there is a high ratio indicates more productive per employee, or high ratio indicates efficient operations of firm without regarding to its financial structures. So the methodology here, my analysis is to compare adopters to non-adopters on a variety of performance metrics, comparing firm performance before, during, and after adoption of ERP. So by using longitudinal dimension on the analysis, we can examine the relative performance of firms before, after, and examine how the effect of ERP implementation appears over time. Finally, with additional data on module implemented, to understand how extent of implementation affects performance. And so by using cross-section and time series data, we can do is to examine the differences between performance of firms and measure in a variety of ways. All of this is done through OOS regression model. And then here you can see the results is so I put on the top with the anything with the asterisk mark, 3 asterisk mark means that the p-value is less than 0.01, and then meaning that it's less than 0.1%, and then 2 asterisk mark means p is less than 0.1, so less than 1%, and then p less than 0.5 means less than 5%. As you can see down here, let's look at the so the dependent variables are the one that going horizontal as on the columns, and then the dependent ones are the one that going vertical, going down on rows. So we can look at the first one for natural log of cells, and we can look at the r squared down there is 0.825, which is this variable is representing 82.5%, which covers pretty much explains for that dependent variable. And then since the r squares are pretty high, so we don't have to do a culinary check, because the variables are quite, are quite heteroscedastic. And then if you can see the next one for pre-tax income, so with the r square of 0.769, that means that 76.9% of the variations of the dependent variable, natural log pre-sales income, is explained by the independent variable. And then that's across the table. And then this will be my next one, is that this one I am up. Okay, if you can look at the bottom, the observations, this one's 5,637. This would be for the computer stat, the intelligence computer info stat. This is including all the ones that are non-ERP adopters and ERP adopters, and then this one is limited to 4,069, which including only the ERP adopters only. So in my conclusion, I found that ERP adopters are consistently higher in performance across a wide variety of measures than the non-adopters. My results suggest that most of the gains occurring during the relatively long implementation periods after, and although there is some evidence of reduction in business performance and productivity shortly fall after the implement completion is complete. So for further discussions, while my data does not allow more detailed analysis of the exact pattern of adoptions, due to the lack of details and data to the extent of deployment at the firm level or long-term impact on productivity, due to the lack of long-term post-implementation data at this time that I have. So my data was only for 2010, up to 2010, so which is relatively, 7 years ago. But this can be both of these issues can be promising areas for the future research. And I also want to measure stock market valuations on token Q, and then I wanted to come to see with the how the adopters of ERP, the companies that publicly traded with the with the ERP implementations play in the the stock market, to see if with that ERP would it goes up or would it go down. I know that there are SOX compliances that I've learned from my workplace, for these implemented the ERP systems, and I know so I want to see how these companies play on the big scale with the market, and if there's a payoff on their stock share prices. Other than that, we can it's comparable to common research approach from prior research literatures, and we can regress with various measures on financial performance, such as the other variables from prior research. So this will be conclusion of my presentations, and here's the bibliography. And then thank you so much for watching this video of mine. Thanks. Bye bye.